Hi and welcome everyone to Compassion Check-In, and it's lovely to see my panel of expert guests. If you all want to wave and smile and so on. It reminds me of an old show that I don't remember, but I've seen vintage footage of, like Celebrity Squares. Does anyone remember that or seen that, where you've got all these people in squares? So yeah, good to see you all. Because of time and because you know how many of us that there are here, I'm just going to get everyone to just literally say just tell us your name and what you do in literally 10 words or less, just so it's nice and quick. Let's start off with Movell there, who's there with Poppy. Do you want to introduce yourself, Movell?
I'm Movell, D&I consultant and coach, and mother of daughter and one dog, Poppy.
Wonderful. And over to you, Aline. Do you want to introduce yourself in 10 words or less? Over to you.
I'm a holistic physical therapist. My daughter is, I'm a mother of a daughter of 16 years old. I heal through combining the fusion of chi, energy, mind and body. And that's what I do nowadays. I help people to overcome weakness, lack of vitality, chronic pain.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And Rob, I'm going to get you to do the 10 words or less introduction because there's so many titles, including OBE. Over to you, my dear friend.
Rob Neal, trainer, facilitator and coach working at Department for Education.
Wonderful, thank you. And in the Prince t-shirt today, that's so cool. And over to you, Tracey.
Hi, Tracey Sage, creative and cultural consultant.
Excellent, and I'm loving the headwear each time. This is like the second time you're here, but we're loving the headwear. Over to Aleksandra, your brief introduction of yourself.
Hi, I'm Aleksandra. I'm Croatian, currently living in London. I'm a journalist and yoga teacher.
Wonderful. And over to Darren.
Good afternoon all, I'm Darren Sylvester, I'm a solicitor. Rasheed was very helpful to me when I set up my own practice in 2016. And apologies for missing the last 2 weeks.
Wonderful and wonderful. Over to the man with the hair who looks after people's hair, amongst other things, Danny.
Hi there, yeah, my name's Danny and I am a barber, but have many interests in well-being and men's mental health.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mia Morris, OBE, over to you. And it's mango time today. I think you said that every Wednesday is a mango. Over to you.
Well, it's cheese and biscuits today. Mia Morris, OBE. I used to run the Black History Month website. I've retired. I've hung up my boots now. So I now work for Sound Minds, which is a mental health charity.
Wonderful, Mia. Really glad that you're here. And over to Claire. Do you want to introduce yourself? Welcome back, Claire.
Hello, nice to see everybody. I'm a counsellor, trainer and facilitator, working a lot with those who help others. So I help the helpers.
Wonderful. And now we're into the Iris corner. The two Irises on my screen are back to back, which is wonderful. First of all, Iris Kay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Iris and I'm a marketing and fundraising consultant.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And I have to apologise if you hear something grunting. It's not me. It's this black creature here.
Wow! We've got the wonderful dogs in the house today, Poppy, and then there's a hat. I don't know my dogs. I'm going to get myself into a tizzy by showing my lack of knowledge. And over to Iris G.
I'm Iris, and I work with international qualitative research, and I am also a conference interpreter. But I am transitioning into something else.
Wonderful, wonderful. I like that. I like that. I like that. And you know what? All the people who are viewers of this, they're going to be intrigued, Iris, wondering what that next career or business incarnation is going to be. They're all fascinated. So,
I just will add something else to it, knowing myself.
Wonderful.
I never change that much.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And Frank, last but by no means least so far. Frank, over to you, my friend.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Frank Munro. I'm a civil servant. I work at the Ministry of Justice.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So today's theme was going to be intuition and self-empowerment, but I used my intuition, given the weeks that we've had, to turn the topic to the theme we all, which was a notion that I think a lovely contact of mine introduced me to a while ago. This kind of notion of, you know, in life, sometimes we first of all start off very early on, focused on ourselves, isn't it? Who am I? What do I want? What is it that I need? And then sometimes we're focusing on a smaller group, my family, or a particular group, what they want. And then perhaps as our consciousness rises, we can begin to think about all. And I think that that's really important. Welcome, Maya. Welcome to the room. Maya, do you just want to literally, in just a sentence, just introduce yourself? We've just begun, and I was just saying that today's topic is I, we, all. But if you just want to say who you are, what you do, in just 10 words or less.
Sure. Hi, I'm Maya, and I am interested in this group because I'm just interested in health and well-being in the community in general. I'm currently looking at having a career change from an accounting background into the health and well-being sector. So I'm just connecting more around just all health matters and joining webinars and just learning about, what we need in the community at the moment and how my skills can match that.
Well, wonderful, because today's topic is I, we, all, and that's a lovely link to that. I, we, all, I mean, maybe we should start off with I. Let's start off here with I. I guess there's so many things, isn't it? It's me, it's my identity, it's how I see myself. In some spiritual circles, this question, who am I, is the most powerful, the most profound question. So this I thing, which causes people so much stress also, that people often wrestle with who they are, often their entire life. Who wants to kick us off with this thing, this I, the identity, who am I? A nice light question for a Wednesday afternoon. I'm really tempted to turn to Aleksandra first. Aleksandra, I'd just love to know your thoughts on this, because I get the feeling that you've been on a journey of finding self, amongst other things. So when we start off here with this I, what does that mean to you?
So exactly what Danny said. I think without well-being, first personal well-being, there will be no global well-being among other human beings in the planet Earth. So I, for me, means really, first personally, as Claire said, you have to care for yourself if you want to care for others. So I is just a little drop in the ocean, but it contains really all other aspects of the wholeness. So if we feel I as disconnected from others, we will suffer. And if we feel drowned by others or by the suffering of others, we will also suffer. So finding that balance, that I can contribute to the wellness of others, therefore you have to take care of I, but not neglect it and not prioritizing it completely on the top list, first, number one. Then I think I can really, really be a contributing, motivating factor or engine, just like what we see now for any movement. It starts with I. Rosa Parks, I don't want to do this. So I is really important, but only as a part of big global.
Wonderful. What a wonderful kickoff here. That I, being aware of myself, where the physical well-being and so on, but I am just a drop in the ocean, and that how is it that I'm able to connect with others in the world around me? But then I can start a flame, the I that can change things. I can just see lovely smiles. I can see Iris G smiling, and Darren, you typed some thoughts in this there. So I'm going to turn to you, Darren. Do you want to just share your thoughts about I? Or if you just want to unmute yourself.
Audio.
Or you're just going to need to unmute. Oh, there we go.
Sorry about that. I put a quote, but I think it's from IBM, and it says, we are what we repeatedly do. And I think that was powerful in the 90s and still powerful now, because like you're a coach, speaker, and author, I'm a solicitor, we all got different roles and responsibilities. And that's what makes us who we are, who we encounter with, who we interact with, what we read, what we assimilate, what we digest. And I just thought that quote sprung to mind, so I put it in the group. But what we repeatedly do, as I repeat myself, makes us who we are. And our identities shape us by the way we lead our lives and the narratives we follow.
So this is interesting. I think all of these things are then interesting, because it makes me think, okay, so who am I? Am I my name? Am I my ethnicity? Am I my gender? Am I my race? Am I my parents' legacy, their hopes? Am I the labels that I wear? Am I the things that I eat? Who am I? Who am I? And am I the same person in every room? I'm the same person that I am here in Compassion Check-In than the next room that I'm in. This thing about I. I'm really interested in this. So there is this thing, isn't there? It would seem I'm these things that I surround myself with and that I do regularly, but I'm still left with this sense of, is this me? Anyone else want to pick up on this this I identity? Because it's deep sometimes, isn't it? People often wrestle. Claire, I'm going to turn to you. You're a counsellor. Lots of people probably come to you, I would imagine, when they're really hugely wrestling with this sense of their identity. Who am I?
Yeah, it's a rich exploration, this sense of I, because I'm thinking about it in so many different ways, but to try and encapsulate it, we need a healthy I before we can start to think about we or all. Okay, so we need a healthy building of an ego. And without that, we can't really take on we and all in a healthy, collaborative, compassionate, empathic way. So a healthy building of the ego means that we get to know who we are, and that is well supported in relationship with others. And in that support, we start to understand we, and then we start to understand all.
Lovely.
So I hate to mention his name, but the orange man that occupies the White House is a really classic example of someone who hasn't built a healthy ego state. So his ego is shambles. It's fragile. It runs rampant. And what I was thinking of with regards to the we and the all situation, especially with America being, and it's not obviously the only place, but just as what is in my mind right at this moment, thinking about that, is how people have related to him where they also don't have a healthy ego state, a healthy I. So they're relating to him not on a political level, but on an emotional level. And I think that relationships and these kind of conversations is where we can support each other to really take the I-ness seriously, so we can get really beyond that and get to the I, capital I, which is how we are all connected, the essential I, beyond our names, beyond where we were born, beyond all of that, to the human bit beyond the self in a global sense, in a connected sense, a humanity sense. Is that making any sense?
No, it makes rich, beautiful, profound sense, a nourishing sense. And I like this healthy I, and it picks up on what was kind of said before, this healthy I. How am I going to find this healthy I, especially if I'm told that I'm nothing or I'm not respected? My own individualism is not respected. What happens here? Iris, I want to turn to Iris G. Iris, what's your been experience about this developing the healthy I, especially if, one of the things that strikes me powerfully about the journey that we've been on is that you've highlighted in a couple of things in differing rooms where you were or you're not accepted. And how is it that you found your own sense of this healthy I? Or I'd love your thoughts on this, isn't it? Because I think the comments that we've had so far are so important, but what's been your thoughts on how we begin to find this healthy I so that then I can contribute to the we and the all? I'd love to hear any thoughts you have on this. Oh, you're going to need to just unmute.
I am not even sure if I am the best person to talk about a healthy I. Because as a person, I am all the time trying to find out what is just I, me as a person, and what I see myself as a we. And I do believe that that comes very much from the way that I was brought up. And lately, like in the last few weeks, even talking with the family, I was discussing exactly that. What is just me, I as a person that thinks certain things, and what is me trying to be part of the we, my family and friends and all that. For example, in terms of being accepted, one of the things that I try to define myself wherever I go is whatever person, even like it was mentioned for the lady mentioned before, like the orange guy or anyone else, I find very hard because I can see in everybody something that I could be that way if I did not take care of myself. So normally I have a sympathy to everybody, even the most horrible people, because I try to see from their point of view. And then that sort of enhance what I want to be the part of my I. The difficulty that I have is the transition to the we. For example, in the last, I meet my family every Sunday to talk. And in the last week, we've been talking about issues of racism because of some things that happened in Brazil and in light of the US thing that everybody was talking. And then when we were talking about some of our own respective experiences, I just told one of my brothers, well, you are saying that, but let's ask this other brother, and I mentioned his name, what is his experience? Because he actually is very dark and we know what he goes through. And my brother straightway said, no, do not put you with the others. You know, I don't think like you, that the society has to make any allowances for me. I just want the society to, give education to all, because I've made my name, but I don't want my children to go through what I did. So I find very hard to go for this to the we. And then the other brother went straight to the all. Oh, we are all humans. So we shouldn't be treated differently. But his position is he's white. And actually just for being white, he had a lot more of opportunity than all of us that are orange with pink blots, like my mom said. You don't have a color. My mom always told us, you don't have a color, you're just green with pink blots. And then we all brought up like as a unit, thinking that, we are all the same. But then actually our own experiences make us quite different. And I find that when we try to relate with others, they just put us in this, oh, we are all humans. Well, if you're going to discuss we're all humans, it's very hard to know what really is part of we and what is just me, I as a person. So yeah, I am very confused about the three things or how I position myself with all of them.
Yeah,
I don't know if I help.
It does help, because I think it brings in this complexity about we. And what struck me about that is that when you started to talk about I, you brought in that we, that very often my sense of I is shaped by we, very often one's own family or our own upbringing and what that we is. And we, the collective, and it seemed that we as human beings love this sense of we, my family, my group, this, that, which separates you from me, this we, sense of we. Anyone want to come in on this point about the we, which is often very important, but it's often where a lot of the separation kind of begins. Who wants to come in here? Rob, I can see you, and then Danny, I'm going to come to Danny, then Danny, you put your hand up, and I can see Rob smiling. So let's go to you, Danny, and then we're going to bring in Rob.
Sorry, just a quick one back on the I before we move on to the we. Yeah. I do think that it comes down to our core values, and then that transcends from what Iris is saying about our families. Sometimes we do bring up some of our own values from our family. However, as we evolve and develop, or my experience of evolving and developing in life has meant that my ethos and my whole core being has changed through certain circumstances of how my life has unfolded. And I think that's quite important. It's almost like a business. When you write a business plan, you want to find out what you want to do in your business and how you want to run that business. And I think that's almost a similar thing to us as for me, certainly. I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it's like, how do I want to run my life? Who is me? Who am I? Who am I to, when I meet or greet people, or, if I want to help somebody, or if I don't want to help them, it's kind of bring it back to just my whole core being and my beliefs in that. I believe I want to be good, and that's what Claire was saying about my healthy ego. I want to have a healthy ego, so I want to find out what that means and how to portray that. So I think it's quite important to just, for me, it's been really important anyway to really sum up my tree, if you like. Having like my branches and where I'm placing myself, where I'm placing my family, where I'm placing my goals or my ambitions, and where I'm placing the negative stuff as well. I'm quite a deep thinker in that, and I like to explore all of that in a big sheet. But just to have a clear opinion, a clear view of who you are, makes it easier to find out who I actually am. And without that out there on my paper, or without actually doing the hard work, I don't know that. And I think that's where I was getting lost for sure, is that I didn't actually put it down on paper. I didn't try and explore it. So I didn't know who I was. I was getting confused of who am I. So I don't know if that is anyone else.
It's an interesting journey, isn't it? If we pause to take this time to consider, then who am I, especially if it's been a lot influenced by the we. Rob, I'm going to bring you in here and I love the way that you'll often reach for a book. I love this and how you operate here and so on. It's like getting an insight to your wonderful world where there's the philosophy, the this, that.
I'm grateful, Rash, for that observation. And this will sound like we planned it, and we haven't. We've been that busy. You and I haven't had a chance to plan anything, because what I want to do, I think, for the second time in my life since I started doing this, is to share a very short, if I may, a very short poem I wrote some years ago, because it's really about the we of me, the we of me. What I've written live as I listened was the connection between I, we, and all. And listening to Darren just now, and what resonated with what he said was some of the ways in which some of us end up compartmentalizing. So if it's okay, it's very short. I used to write a lot of poetry, and I've collected a lot of my poems in my own portfolio. And only once before have I shared any of my poetry. But I've been here how many weeks consecutive? What number is this, Rash?
12 or 13.
Yeah, and I just feel that connected with it. And I'm just going to share it really quickly. Flashes from my past mix a bittersweet cocktail of memories, making today's punch even harder to swallow. Thoughts of yesterday gate crash my mind, and like a reluctant host, I am bound to entertain them. Self-advice remains potent, sharp, unblunted. As intended, it leaves a cutting pain. Drunk with desire, my eye looks down at the sky. Movements no longer predictable, a mask still fancied.
When did you write that?
I wrote that about 20 years ago. And I wrote today, I am on a journey. I am private. I am public. I am what you see. I am what you don't see. I am a Jamaican. I am a son, a brother, an uncle, a cousin. I am an extrovert. I am a husband. I am growing. I am a black man. I am a dancer. Yes, Claire, we are dancers. I am a lover. I share in the joy of others. I am no longer seeking white validation. I am angry, but I am excited and I am hopeful.
Very rich, very, very, very rich. Really rich. And what I get there is a lot of the beautiful complexity of this journey of I and of we, actually. I wonder with the we, I'm tempted to put it into breakout groups a little bit to discuss this kind of we thing. Especially, it will be interesting, and here's my thinking here. Because this we thing is really complicated, right? There's my family, there's my color, there's my race, there's my gender, there's my ethnicity, there's my sexuality, there's my job, there's my profession, there's my lack of a job. There are all of these different things. There's my country, there's all of these things, some which may sit well with me, some which may not. Then there's all the things of how I belong, or if I feel that I don't belong, or what I rebel against. And it's interesting, that thing about those things which we decide, and those things which we don't decide, or other people are wanting to try and decide for us, or to shape, or to empower us, or to disempower us. So I'm going to invite us to go in some breakout groups now, because of course you're not going to know who you're going to be in this group with, which is going to be interesting, and see how you get on in your group. And I just want you to just have a conversation about we. Take it wherever you want. You're not going to have long. You're only going to have 5 minutes in your group. So please keep each bit short and punchy. Better that you all get several bites of the cherry than just one long bite of the cherry. And I'm going to send you into your breakout rooms right now, my friends. So you're going to have a nice chat about we. In fact, I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something slightly different. Let me just, options, let me do something else. Recreate. And we're going to have 4 rooms. Okay, recreate rooms. Over to you, in your rooms. Over to you, my friends. Head into your private groups. Wonderful. Wonderful. Rob's discerning as to, am I going to join that group? Am I going to join that group? Let's see. Okay, I think Rob's joined his group. So I've just sent them into their groups to discuss this we aspect of I, we, all. And I'm just really curious to see who's in what group. So we've got Aleksandra, Claire, Iris, Kay, and Tracey are in one group. Aline, Frank, and Iris G are in another group. We've got Danny, Maya, and Mia in another group. And we've got Darren, Movell, and we've got Rob in another group, which is really, really interesting. So we've got just these different groups, and it'd be just interesting to see what their experience is of we. You know, what does that mean to you? I mean, the I, we've heard that quite richly discussed so far. But what do you think about this thing about we? What does that mean to you? Does it mean family? Is we far more about, for you, is about faith? Is it about what is it that you do for a living, your community? What is that about for you? Is it about your colour, your creed, other aspects of who you are? And how does it sit with you? Has it been easy? Has it been comfortable? Does the we sit interestingly? Is there a lot of conflict with that? How do you feel about other we groups? I'm going to send them a message. I'm just going to send them a couple of thoughts, prompts. How does it sit with them? Has it been easy? I'm just typing just a few prompts, just different things for them to think about. So yeah, and whilst they're there, I just want to flag up something, a couple of things that are coming up, just a couple of events and so on. Whilst they're there, I might as well just share some other things with you. So I am running, if you're watching this pretty much at the time, on the 27th of June, I'm running a retreat of this same name, I, We, All. And that is going to be run, as I say, 27th of June with myself and the team from Red Lotus Project Sustainable Human Being, that's Lee and Justin, who were on this call last time. And it's going to be run from 12 to 1:30 p.m. BST, British Summer Time. So yeah, that's what we're going to be running. You know, do get in touch if you're keen to attend. If you check out my social media, you will be able to see a link to that. I'm really intrigued to discuss what they're all talking about and what their journey of we has been. I'm really tempted to go and visit some of their rooms. Mm-hmm. Typing them a few things. Are you pleased you are in this group? curious about. So I've just prompted them a little bit about their groups. How do they feel about this group? Do they wish that they were in another group? I mean, that can happen, isn't it? Or are we really, really proud, uber proud of our group? Okay. I'm going to give them, I think I'm going to give them about like a minute more. 2 minutes. To ensure everyone speaks. Each contribution concise. Just giving them a couple of tips. See how they're getting on. Going to bring them back here again. It's yeah, I'm just curious about that. Yeah, so what does this we mean to you? I think that we're in a time, aren't we, where this we is really important sometimes, isn't it? It's really important for us to sometimes have that time where we, one group, can connect. One group, you know, be it it's based on our color, our creed, our class, or our gender, our sexuality, or our profession, because sometimes we will need to have those we conversations to learn, to share, and what have you. But sometimes it's going to be important that we come together again, isn't it? So it's interesting how things in life can become very this and that, the blues, the reds, the greens, the yellows, the this, the that. It's interesting. Anyway, I'm going to bring them, I think I'm about to bring them back. I feel as though they've been in their rooms for quite a long time. Let me, 1 minute seems right. See how long they've been in there. I think they've been in there for about 5 minutes. Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting, their thoughts about this, about the we, and then we're going to move on to the all. So yeah, I think we're going to close down their groups and begin to bring them back. And actually, just before I do bring them back, I'm going to keep a note to myself of who is in which particular group, because we've got 4 groups, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And Tracey, I'm just writing this down. I'm about to bring them back in just 1 moment. There's G, and that's K. I'm just writing my list of who's in which group. And it will be interesting seeing what they say. And here we go. I am about to bring them all back into the room so we can learn what they've had to say. Okay. Right, here we are. We're closing the rooms, and I'm really just so curious. I'm so curious about what's the conversations that have ensued since they've been in these groups. Then we're going to be exploring the we, what the advantage, disadvantage, where is it useful to be able to do that? Where is it kind of problematic? What's the limitations of the we? And then how do we then connect to all? It's going to be so interesting. Really, really interesting. Well, they're still in the, they're still in their rooms right now. So that means that they're having really, really rich conversations because they're leaving it until the last seconds to come back here into this main room. But what does this mean to you, I? Do you need to spend more time nourishing the I or learning about the I, as some of the people are saying, connecting to your values? What about the we? How do you sit with the we with your family or with your friends and so on? Is it comfortable? Is it changed? Are there things that need to shift? Do you identify with that? And then thinking a little bit about then the all. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. They're all back. Here are my friends, they're all back. They're all back here. I cannot wait to hear from you about your conversations. Yeah, Claire's dancing. Well, Claire, you can dance because your group were group number 1. But I'm wondering if I'm going to go to group number 1. I'm going to go to group number 2, first of all. I'm just going to keep everybody on tenterhooks, but I can't wait to hear. Group number 2, Aline, Frank, and Iris. Will we, and Iris G. So Frank, we haven't heard from you or Aline so far. So I wonder if one of the two you want to just tell us what were the main thoughts, the main things that you kind of discussed. And were you provoked also? Was anyone provoked by my questions that I posed in there about this we group? Did you like the we group? Would you have chosen another group? Were you envious of the other group, jealous of the other group, or proud? But Frank, over to you in group 2. What were your thoughts?
Right, we had an interesting conversation about how we collectively saw the we. I started from the position that my default position for we is the family and friends construct, but then we broadened that out into people like-minded, different views, and what you have to do to become a we in another group. So so the conversation moved towards having a established we, but if you wanted to join another group, you may have to change some of your values, principles, and thoughts in order to become part of that other we group. I don't know if any of you guys wanted to finesse my rubbish explanation.
No, that's really rich. I found that fascinating. And Iris is nodding, Iris is accepting that, and Aline's smiling as well. And it's fascinating, isn't it? Because it makes us realise what I love that you brought on the table already. There's all of these different we's, and there's some which we can choose and some which we can't choose. Group 4, I want to turn to group 4. Who is group 4? We had Darren, Movell, Rob.
Rob is our speaker. Rob is our speaker.
I know, they've twisted my arm. They've forced me to take the microphone.
Yeah, right.
Unaccustomed as I am.
Yeah, right.
That's enough for that, Munro. No more lip from you, mate. We had a fascinating conversation, which Darren and Movell may wish to add to if I muck this up. But we ended up almost drawing a model, Rash and others. We ended up, we think, fitting a lot of what's going on at the moment, the kind of convergence of George Floyd, COVID-19, lockdown, into the I that is George Floyd, the we that is COVID-19, and the all that is lockdown. And Darren mentioned as strange fruit that hang off of that, as strange fruit, folks, that hang off of that. Yeah, the Windrush as a reminder of many of us still in limbo right now this week has arrived to bring to the fore some of what many of us on this call are feeling in our hearts right now. So that's what we came up with in our discussion. Darren, Movell, anything to add?
You've covered it brilliantly.
Really rich. Really
was
rich.
I better than Frank? That's why. Was I better than Frank?
I can neither confirm or deny.
I'm not getting involved in that. You're both my brothers. I love you.
There speaks the lawyer. There speaks a lawyer.
I plead the fifth on that one.
It's really beautiful, isn't it? It's really beautiful. One of the things that jumps out to me is what different conversations would emerge about this same topic if different people are in the group. This is what makes it so interesting, and why sometimes that we need to have those separate spaces, and why sometimes we need to come together. It's fascinating. I'm going to jump to group number 1 before we go to group number 3. So group number 1 was Aleksandra, Claire, Iris K, and Tracey. Who's your spokesperson? And I wonder if it's somebody who haven't heard from so far. Who's your spokesperson?
Claire.
Claire, you've been...
No, I'm sorry, I'm passing the mic to Tracey.
Okay, so Tracey, do you want to just sum up for us what your conversation?
We had an interesting conversation. I think we did it felt like we were all in the room. We all showed up, actually. But one of the things we did talk about was about the need for us to show up for ourselves. First, we have to show up for ourselves in order to show up for us, for that we to happen. And one of the phrases I used was something I'd heard yesterday, where somebody had said, we need to grow ourselves first. You know, we need to grow ourselves first. And it's that thing about who am I? That question about authenticity. I was talking about the fact, and I think that actually other people spoke about it as well, the fact that sometimes you're in a group of people and we end up talking and saying things that the group says. We find a language, a means of communication that works for the group. And somehow within that, we lose ourselves. And so we have to decide or find a place of authenticity. And it's in finding that authentic voice that we're able to show up, not just for ourselves, but also for others. And then find a place of joy. And then it's about, and then stripping back. And I think Claire had mentioned that kind of stripping everything back. And then when you strip everything back, you know, that you get to almost a place of childhood again. When you're a child, you're joyful, you're compassionate, you're open, and you're understanding all of those things that somehow, you know, as we get older, we have to move back to. And in moving back to that and finding, you know, who I am then able to contribute to the group and to the we.
It's beautiful. This, and as you're speaking through that, it did make me think about the I in that we group. But I was thinking, in addition to this journey of us all reflecting to see what we could bring to this group, I wondered what happens if I, in that group, if my voice isn't nurtured, if my soul isn't watered as much as the others in that particular group, what happens, and how conscious are we all in that group about the individual experience of each person in that group? Because it made me think about family, it made me think about in different workplaces and all of these different times about that we, how nurturing, how acceptance. And again, there's that interesting thing, isn't it? What happens when I want to step out from the family? If I want to step out and join that group, or if I want to change this or marry somebody from a different background, faith, religion, this, that, what happens when the I shows up in the we? What happens there? You know, what happens is there in that? Is that what we voice a chorus in which we hear all those sounds? Beautiful, really, really rich stuff. Group number 3, Danny and Maya and Mia. Who's your spokesperson and what do you want to share with us about your conversation? Oh, let's see. Everyone's just like chilled.
Go ahead. I think, Maya, yeah.
Or Mia, I know you were writing a few things down. Would you be happy to talk through?
You're always succinct, Mia, so I think that if you're happy to... Oh, you're on mute, Mia. You're on Mia. Oh, you're on mute.
It's about a sense of value and identity and how you see yourself. It's a journey, consciously understood what my identity is. It's expansive, multifaceted. It's fluid. It's all embracing. And I said it's a bit like a butterfly emerging. So you start off very small as a larva and then eventually emerge into a butterfly. That becomes the all.
So that's really interesting.
Of mine.
So I'm curious here, Maya. Mia, I'm curious. Your conversation there around we, was it very cohesive? And what I mean by that is that one thing that just jumps out to me about the we is that sometimes it's challenging, isn't it, to find a real genuine, authentic we voice in that. What did you have views on that? How easy? Because I love the beautiful picture of that. But I wonder if there's complexity or difficulty in arriving at that harmonic we. I was just curious about that from the things you were saying.
We all came from different perspectives, but then I think we found something that we could agree on. It's about stillness within and clarity.
Right.
And connecting with the true self. It's like-minded, it's changing values and principles.
Right, that's beautiful, isn't it? And it makes me think that, you know, think about a lot of work in different organizations and so on, and that to get back to that, well, what are we actually about? Danny talked before about values individually, but what is it, this collective actually about? Wonderful. So we've heard from each group. Anyone got any last thoughts about this we before we move to the I? Aleksandra, yeah, please.
So I just want to add something. It came back to my mind in
in Slavic, old Slavic language, we had I, and then we had we, but as you and I, and only then we had we.
Oh.
So it's like something before, and I think that's what Claire said about like a Trump. I watched this documentary called Welcome to Late about this white supremacist, like how, and then I did a little bit of digging about him, like what happened, like he was just molested by his dad. And so it's about first point of reference or something. And then I like went on an inner journey, because like my mom gave me this permission to play, like Tracey said, permission to be authentic, no matter what, whatever circumstances were. That gave me the power to develop and trust in other bigger we. But first was we, my mother and I, and that gave me, the permission to play, to explore, to be myself no matter what. And then I could be part of bigger we, that is like free people and further.
I really like that realizing that there's this work to be done of the you and I, so that the we is really meaningful, it's equitable, and then we can, and it also points to us perhaps having that empathy to other we's. I mean, I wonder, is there just before we move on to the y'all, does anyone have any feelings about what happens to, it strikes me that there's something really beautiful about the we, my identifying with my background, my race, my color, my gender, my ethnicity, or my family, or this, or the rest of it, or my football team, or the tennis player I like, or what have you. But there's also this kind of, at that moment, there's this funny kind of conflict that happens. You know what I mean? There's this then tension with the other we's. Anyone got any viewpoints about this before we go to this all? What happens? Is there something that is lost in this we, in terms of us being able to identify with the all? Yeah, Maya, briefly, over to you.
Yeah. So my thoughts on we are that it's very much linked to I, and so as long as I is fluid and expansive, we will continue to be fluid and expansive. And from an identity perspective, I see identity as changing, evolving throughout the whole of each and every one of our lives, 7.5 billion people or whoever. And so the concept of we will change in turn, or our connection with we will change in turn throughout our lives. So I don't think it's ever going to be static.
Right, that's beautiful, because I think that you put your finger on some of the things very beautiful here, is that very often, if I can go on this journey of realizing that the I of me is constantly changing, my age, the thinking, my features, my well-being, what's going on, my profession, and so on. If we can take that same thing to the we, which often strikes me as often becoming very fixed. And when it's fixed, either for the people who are within the we, it can be stilting for them. But it also can be stilting for everybody else. So I think coming up with a more flexible take on even the we can be really, really powerful. Let's open up to the all. And the reason why today I was quite clear about this I, we, all, it struck me, and why I'm today in my Mandela journey, is that, sometimes this me, I need to take on the thing, and this is what I'm going to do. I need to take my responsibility. Then we, yes, I'm fighting for this particular cause is really important. This equality, this particular group is really important. But then the realization of, hang on, we're all in this. What's the journey we all need to go on? And how can we come to this place of the all? And it strikes me that we're some way away from that, but there've been beautiful moments. And Rob, there was is Rob still here on the call? Rob seems to have vanished for a moment. Has he vanished for a moment? I was just about to give him some credit, and he's just vanished at that moment. But there's that moment, isn't it, that in all of these different events that we've seen recently, including this, this lovely, saying lovely, the demonstration about the statue in Bristol, dragged, out of time, it shouldn't be, and all, you've got this group of people of all different backgrounds realizing that this statue no longer has any place anymore. I thought there was something beautiful about that, absolutely beautiful, including the police realization that actually this is a collective action of the all, that this is no longer acceptable. I wonder if anyone wants to begin us here with this journey of the of the all. Anyone want to say anything? Movell, I'm going to turn to you. Our learned colleague, lawyer background, coach. What's your thoughts on how can we move to this place of all?
I've been very kind of surprised and excited and heartened by the fact that we seem to have just moved to the all quite seamlessly with recent events. And we were talking in our group about the fact that, you know, I've been doing D&I work and Rob and Frank have been doing it for a very long time. And this time feels different because of that.
That's inclusion, for those of you who don't know the term.
Sorry, I'm always using that jargon.
Yeah,
it feels very different this time because we've been in protests before. There have been deaths in police custody and all kinds of things that have plagued the Black people, the Black community for a long time. We've protested those things, but we've done that alone. We've done that in isolation, almost in a vacuum. And I think that's part of the reason why we are here today. So I've been really enjoying seeing the all that has just grown organically out of the injustice, because people have come together in ways that they ordinarily wouldn't. Hence you seeing, you know, people of all races and genres and genders pulling down that statue in unity. So I think, and that's why we in our group we talked about, you know, the I being, you know, the George Floyd, and then the we being COVID-19, and the all being lockdown. So and I think it's, for want of a better expression, it's been a perfect storm of things happening. I think that the reason that we have the all that's coming together in this particular movement is because of the fact that we've spent time in isolation because of COVID-19, where we have time to do some of that self-examination on the I, because we're not traveling. Yes, most of us are still working, but we're not traveling. So we have a bit more time at home. We have more time with family. So we're getting a bit more time to do the I stuff and also spend time in the we. So I think that's why we've emerged in this movement into the all so powerfully, because we've had that time to look at ourselves that we haven't had before.
Very, very powerful indeed. And it strikes me, again, isn't it interesting that, picking up on what you were just saying there, Movell, and that lots of people have been saying, oh, hey, isn't it interesting? People have been thinking about the planet, thinking about the animals, the ecology, thinking about those bigger global kind of questions, isn't it? Noticing those things beyond the things about themselves and their own family, noticing about these concerns that we all have to deal with, that often prior to this, that people's almost brushing under carpet. Oh no, these issues are too big, almost. So it's interesting.
We feel too busy, right? We're always traveling like little worker bees, on the go, on the go, on the go. So we don't get a chance to think about any of this stuff. It hit me one day last week. We had some real nice sun. I was out on my balcony and the sky was so blue, and I suddenly realized I could hear birds chirping all day. I don't usually hear. That's because the environment and the planet has had time to heal through less traffic, less pollution, because we spent more time in our homes. So there's a reason that we've all kind of converged in the all so powerfully. It's because we've had that time, that break away from the other all, which was all about consumerism and go, go, go. And we've now kind of had that time to do some I work, some we work, so we can come together on the all for something that's a bit more important than being consumers.
And I think also what's happening at the moment, isn't it, this thing about lots of people learning about the experience of different people, learning about the experience of people of different races, different backgrounds, different circumstances, and so on. That therefore means that each I can be honoured, the different we's can be honoured, and so on. And Iris Kay, we've not heard from you yet. And you've worked also in organisations and charities that have had a global reach and so on. I wonder, this all bit, what's your take on it? Anything that you're wanting to share as we move to this all?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on that. I joined a prayer meeting yesterday, and it's a charity who works in Nepal, where I worked for before, and it's really interesting how many people worldwide felt compelled to go to Nepal. And it's one of the poorest countries in the world, and the Nepali people are absolutely wonderful. And when you actually look at how they have worked so hard to change their country, and they were working their way up in the poverty rank worldwide. And then we had this big earthquake, and then they had a massive setback. Since then, they really suffer with mental health issues, depressions. It's actually one of the, I think it's the 6th worst country with suicide rates in the world, and that's only recorded. The real number will be higher. And they now really hit badly by COVID. You know, and what really struck me is that compassion, how people have that spiritual connection and really care and come together to make a difference, and that there is actually no boundary, no label, you know, where really humanity meets humanity. And I find that very humbling when you see that happen.
And I like that thing that where you went to with the compassion, the humanity, because I think the humanity for me is that invitation that can bind the all, right? You know, I've got a saying that, you know, compassion is even more powerful than courage. And don't get me wrong, courage is very, very important. Courage is important many times. But the quote goes, compassion is even more powerful than courage. Sure, with courage, you can conquer a world, but only with compassion can you heal and can you build it. Only with the compassion. So I guess it's required a lot of courage from us now. I'm just about to come to you, Darren, you know, but the compassion is this possibility that we can bring us together. Over to you, Darren, please.
Thanks, Rasheed. I shared this with a small group, but I want to share it with a larger group because it links in with Movell's point a few minutes ago, is that when I look back at the death of Stephen Lawrence in 93 or 94 as a teenager, I don't recall the amount of outcry, protests, tearing down statues or whatever, when we look at the death of George Floyd. And both were tragic instances and events. But this links in with Movell's point, is because in 93, 94, everyone was sad, but then they went back to their work, they went back to their homes, got on with their lives, so maybe read the papers. But now we're all in lockdown, now we're all in COVID-19, and there's nothing for people to do. I think that's one of the reasons why it's resonated more with George Floyd. So I just wanted to draw that distinction, even though time has gone on 25 or 26 years. Both were tragic circumstances, but the events were different. That's led to society's changed, leading to a more widespread take on things.
And there's this beautiful thread that a number of you have said throughout the call about this thing about the time within that real self-reflection and self-work that then sometimes then does invite us to think about the we and the all. Claire, please.
Yeah, I was going to say it's with the backdrop as well, leading to this moment, again, facing this again in this time, is the rise of the far right, which has been very tangibly felt at the highest levels of global politics, and the feeling of that getting way too close to dominating across civic life, and how frightening that has been for many people. So I think it's that culmination of, yes, COVID reflection time to think, time to act, time to attend to things that have been pushed to one side through busyness, through lots of different reasons. But yeah, the perfect storm, I think, is also that kind of, we cannot let this happen to our world on many different levels. And then the laser focus of looking at what has happened specifically around George Floyd and the many other moments of anger and grief that haven't been attended to in the Black community on this level, that have now culminated in this action.
It's powerful.
That makes sense. I feel like I'm not talking to enough people outside of my house, and then sometimes I talk and I don't know if I'm making any sense at all. I just want to say one thing about the one thing I want to say about the we-ness leading to the all. I think we need less circles and more horseshoes to keep space open to welcome people in, and to keep that going in ourselves and with others. However, the difficulty with that, and why these spaces are so important, is to be able to do that, we need to build trust and we need to heal in our relationships with the different we's that we you know, assigned to others, or that we think we're assigned to. So yes, we need to be open, we need to welcome, we need to create that, but we have to recognize that to do that, we need to have courageous conversations, we need to heal, we need to be open to that, to keep that space, to make that a possibility.
Absolutely, I love that, and I love that in every room, isn't it? In all of those rooms, in our one-to-one relationships, in our families, in our friendships, in our organisations, in our in the advocacy groups, between all sorts of community. I love that thing about that horseshoe and that mindfulness about that. And also, when you're speaking before, it made me think of that song by, what's the group, Manic Street Preachers. If you tolerate this, then your children will be next. And lots of people are realising that, you know, certain of these big issues that affect us all. Hang on a minute. If we let this thing, then you know, what's going to be left for the next generation? I thought, did I see Iris K? Did you just put your hand up? I thought there's something that you were just about to say before I'm going to get moved to everyone's last comments. I think there's something for me very magical about this space here. Look at, can I just invite you all, this is going to sound really cheesy, but could I just invite you all just for a moment, just to look around in this group, look at the beautiful backgrounds that we've got of people of our diversity in this room. I think that we cover, how many different continents do we cover in terms of our backgrounds here? I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it? You know, Europe, the Americas, you know, thinking the cultural backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, you know, faith backgrounds. It's beautiful, these kind of spaces. And I think that online can play an interesting part here as well, too. It's just interesting, isn't it? This richness, I've found it really, really beautiful. I'm going to invite everyone to maybe just wrap up with their closing salvo, if you like. It'd be nice if it's fairly concise. But just what is it that you're going to carry through with you? How is it that you're able to perhaps carry this consciousness even more into your work, this consciousness, this compassion, or the courage around this also into your, to how you're moving next? I'm going to start off at the bottom of my screen at the moment. I have, I've got Maya. So can I invite you, very briefly, each person, just to summarize, what is it you're going to take forward from this?
Yeah, I'm going to focus on myself and finding the best, healthiest version of myself, and accept that it's a journey that it will be for the rest of my life. And then I hope to emanate that with everyone in my environment around me to make my environment as healthy as I am.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I'd invite you to reflect on what's going to be the first step, what's going to be your key tools in that. That's the coach in me, to think about what the kind of key tools to do that. Next up, Aleksandra, what's it you're going to carry away with you? And can I first of all thank you, Aleksandra? I just want to thank you for how you've championed some of the things that we've been doing, including here, passing it on, encouraging people to come into this room. I think that things like that are just so powerful, and that's part of this stuff of what we can all do, I guess, in our own ways. I'm not talking about people promoting this per se, but that thing of how we can all be advocates and ambassadors. I just want to thank you for how you do that. These things don't pass me by. I'm very, very grateful.
No, thank you, Rasheed. I really appreciate this space and time to interact, and also to think and process and challenge views that I have personally, just like Claire mentioned about inclusivity and horseshoe. I think she mentioned horseshoe. I don't know that term yet, but I'll do some research. But I feel that I haven't done enough in my own personal life, especially like with the war in Croatia. I still kind of work on a global level, but not on that very, very traumatic level in my personal history. So maybe I was not ready before, but I think now I'm ready. So this will be my first step to include and to start working on healing that part of me and we in my country and my territory,
I think that's powerful. I can tell that's powerful. I think that will bring such richness to the work that you do. And when we combine the work that you do as a healer and with your work background as a journalist, I imagine how powerful that will be. Tracey, over to you. What's going to be your takeaway? How are you going to carry this further forward?
I'm going to continue to show up for myself from a place of joy and compassion, so that I can show up for the others around me, for my family, and for the organisations and the creatives that I support.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's move up next to Movell. Oh, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah, pretty similar to Tracey's. I guess I need to I spend a lot of time in self-reflection and trying to look after myself in self-care anyway, but I want to spend more time doing that and going beyond that into the healing, because what's been unearthed for me in this period has been the depth of the damage to the psyche of the Black person and the Black family that goes unhealed, and we carry that with us into the we and into the all. And so I feel like I do a good job in my job anyway, but in order to do a better job in my diversity and inclusion space and as a coach, spend more time in healing. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
Thanks so much for that. I think that's powerful, because I'm so glad that this thread about that trauma and the healing bit has been mentioned, because that's a key part of the process, isn't it? And allowing that space and that work. Thank you so much. Darren, over to you.
Yes, so very simple, really. The time is now, and stop waiting for things to happen. Go out and make them happen.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Claire, over to you for your takeaway. What will you be taking away from here? Oh, I think you're on mute. I think you're mute. Mindfully on mute.
To echo some of what Tracey said, the authentic self, this is a phrase from someone else, being a walking permission slip for other people. So if I turn up as my authentic self, I'm welcoming you to turning up in your authentic self, and all of the mishaps and the mistakes that happen in that space are welcome. Let's work it out together. Rupture, repair, heal.
Wonderful, really magical, really magical. Thank you so much. Let's head along to, I'm going to go up this way. Aline, over to you. So what are you going to take away from today's call? Yeah, please.
Well, I'm just kind of thinking about what Claire just said now. Yes, pretty much what Mandela taught us. We shouldn't be afraid of our light. No, we should overcome our fears. And what I come from today is that a good boost on keeping on, but listening to my inner spirit and the see, in the circumstances, because I wrote something about self-empowering today, which comes towards what we're saying now. I think learning through the process of interacting with people in life situations and seeing whenever we have an obstacle that it's a call to deal with, to learn with the process of healing whatever is makes us to bring that to us, because in my way of thinking, life brings what you have to come through, what you have to overcome. So see any obstacle and any situation that might be like you feel like energy is stuck as a potential opportunity to see where you're not taking responsibility there, where you're victimizing yourself still, so and with compassion understand the other part as well, and please many more rooms like this. Mm-hmm. So we can be what we are, humans. We're not machines. And it's time to bring that perhaps the female energy into the world, I would say, which is what we're doing here. Yeah, absolutely,
and I like that. I think you're right, that pain point often is a clue to where that healing can begin. Danny, over to you. What's your takeaway from today's session?
Takeaway for me is just that we can make these big changes in the smaller we's. So all of us as a collective, we can all make that big change if the we's want to make that change, and that comes from the I. So even smaller than that, it's like a little spark of a flame. I can make that choice to say something, to do something that will then influence my we, which then influences the all. And then that is where magic happens and evolution can move forward. And like we touched on before, I think it was Claire saying about the healthy egos, we need a healthy all. And so that will only come from a healthy we and a healthy I. So it's just an evolution for me.
I like that. And I like that small room of the small we rooms. Maybe with these two people, I can make this influence. And then when I'm in this bigger room, and then in this bigger room, these things can ripple out. Mia Morris OBE, your closing thoughts for us.
On your quote, mm-hmm. Black Cultural Archives and the London Metropolitan Archives are all going to be doing exhibitions regarding this particular period, how people have responded to it, whether it's George Floyd or COVID. And just to say, the quote I've got for you is, if I can see it. Ah, right, my quote has disappeared.
I'm going to go to Frank. I'm going to go to Frank, and then you can wave at me, Mia, once this quote's reappeared.
It disappeared, Mia. It was Reject Hatred Without Hating by Mary Baker.
Reject hatred without hating. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hi, I'm just going to build on Danny's point, because for me it's working on the we, and it's for me my takeaway is how moving forward, how I fine tune my inclusion exclusion balance.
So I get that feeling that, Frank, you're going to be very mindful about how you then really do more of this work in those we spaces, and how you blend that, including when you're in that secluded space. Beautiful, beautiful. And Iris, Iris K.
Yeah, to me today was a really good reminder, because sometimes I think you just get washed into the day and you just react and do whatever you think you have to do and you're not intentionally aware necessarily, which is work in progress and a long journey. But I think it's about, to me, to remind myself about taking responsibility to give up labeling and defining myself and others. That actually in a way dissolves the we, because that can set unhelpful boundaries as well. And the other thing is to take responsibility for personal vibrations and the contribution we make by that, whether we allow ourselves to be gripped by fear or negativity or worry, or just, can't remember the name of the lady with a wonderful hat, to actually say joy. Choose joy and give that to the world is a choice.
Yeah, what Tracey had said. And it's a shame that Iris G, I think, has had to leave the call, and Rob, but I just want to say, first of all, just a huge thank you. I found this today really, really, just really rich. Just really, really, really rich. For me, there's something about, of course, this eye work that is constantly important, and realizing that the eye is fluid. I love this thing about the we also being fluid, and how is it that we're able to bring this compassion and mindfulness into all of the we rooms in terms of for the all, and not losing sight of the all when we're dealing with the we. And for me, there's something about, I think I've said this probably a number of times this call. I love that saying about, have you got the room in your heart? For me, this takes me back to what compassion check-in's about. If we don't have the room in our heart, it's really difficult to do that thing. I love that thing about, what's that thing about that you said, Movell, about that hatred and hatred? Hatred without hating, is it that? Or what was it? Can you read?
Mia's quote is reject hatred without hating.
Right. So I think it's, how is it that we're able to find, as my friend here did, which is, to find that room where we can be compassionate, even to where those people haven't shown it, so that we can begin to really affect deep, deep change for everybody's trauma, And I look around, including at lots of the people, including some of the significant figures who've been mentioned, and I can see huge trauma also. I can see huge pain. So my hope with Compassion Check-In is that wave of compassion. This is, between now and next time, I want to try and remember a line from a quote in a song, but I can't remember it now, so I'm going to bring it back next time, just to say huge thank you. So next time, why don't we go back to that intuition and empowerment, intuition and self-empowerment next time. Just want to thank you all so, so much. This will be again online soon, and have yourself a wonderful day. Have a lovely, nourishing lunch, as nourishing as this been for the soul and the spirit. And I'll see you all soon. Thank you all for your
Thanks, Rasheed.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you all next week.